Well, welcome everyone, and thank you so much for joining us this afternoon. We've got a great panel discussion ahead of you. We're very excited to have you with us. So this afternoon, we will be discussing how manufactured homes can help fill the affordable housing supply gap. We have a panel of home manufacturers, researchers, and practitioners working in the space to address affordable housing needs for communities across the country. My name is Grant Beck. I am Vice President of Strategic Partnerships for Next Step Network. So really quick ground rules for today's webinar. All attendees should be muted. As we'll be participating, we encourage you to send in questions or discussion points in the Q&A function on the Zoom webinar. At the end, we will have a few minutes to address questions from the audience. So we'll get to as many of those as we can before the conclusion of the webinar. So with that, I am going to turn it over to Stacey Epperson, President and CEO of Next Step Network. Stacey.
Thank you, Grant. It's a pleasure to have you on the webinar today to learn from this esteemed panel of practitioners. So let me make some introductions. First, we have Astu Ah. Astu is an economist in the single-family mission and area includes understanding underserved housing markets with a focus on housing affordability, access to credit, loan performance, and gaps in homeownership. She leads research on manufactured housing and on duty to serve projects. So welcome. Also on the panel today, we have Chloe Dotson. She's currently the Director of Planning and Development for the City of Jackson. Chloe's passionate about her collaborative work with communities, government entities, and the public and private sectors in an effort to unite, strengthen, and facilitate holistic and data-driven strategies for community improvement. She's an urban planner, grant writer, real estate developer, social and environmental activist, with over 10 years of professional experience in both domestic and international community development and planning. So welcome, Chloe. Also joining us today is Clemente Mojica. Clemente has 24 years of experience in community economic development with a focus on affordable housing. He is the President and Chief Executive Officer for Neighborhood Partnership Housing Services, NPHS. It's a multifaceted community development financial institution in Rancho Cucamonga, California. Recognizing the need for innovative housing solutions, Clemente established Homes by NPHS, a factory-built housing social enterprise. Homes by NPHS provide energy-efficient, healthy, and affordable off-site built homes and accessory dwelling units to nonprofit developers and consumers alike. And Ramsey Cohen is also joining us today. Ramsey has worked for nearly 15 years at Clayton Homes. He has taken on many roles, including selling land nationwide, loan servicing to marketing and advertising. In his current role, Ramsey serves as a passionate advocate for expanded access to affordable housing and a champion for the benefits of manufactured housing and how it can serve local communities. So thank you, panelists, for joining us today. And we'll get straight into it. So my first question is for Chloe. And to start this conversation and level set the need that we're facing, can you talk to us about the housing situation on the ground in Jackson? What can most households afford to buy? And tell us about what is being built today.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much for having me. Jackson, I call it ground zero because, the conditions that we experience throughout the nation seem to be exponential when it comes to the city of Jackson. So, the average family of four here in the city makes anywhere between $50,000 to $60,000. And that's, and if you look at the market, that means they can probably afford a house around 110, 120, at the most 130. And if you think about the housing stock that's available within that price range, you're looking at homes that were built pre 1960s, so you're looking at like 1960, 1970 type infrastructure that probably has efficiency issues and infrastructure issues. So it actually costs the most vulnerable more to become homeowners. In addition to, we have this huge rental market here. There's actually more rental units in the city of Jackson than homeowners. So we have a huge rental market that is basically squeezing the life out of homeowners because there's no cap on the rental market. And so what we're seeing is that the homelessness is increasing because people don't have access to fair and affordable housing on the rental side or on the homeowner side. We're seeing new construction skyrocket, not even, pre-COVID, but I mean, post-COVID, but even pre-COVID, construction was extremely expensive. You're looking at a single family house around $130, $120 per square foot. And that's without any subsidies. And so what we're seeing right now is just the market is not providing the type of viability that's needed for families to thrive, whether that's on the rental side or on the homeowner side.
Thank you, Chloe. I think that's a great overview of that market, and I look forward to hearing more about what you're doing about that. But let me shift over and ask a couple of questions from our researchers too. So you've co-authored research mapping the existing zoning landscape and identifying the opportunities to expand manufactured housing. Can you tell us a little bit about this research and what, if anything, did you find particularly enlightening or surprising?
Yes, sure. So thank you for that question. And as you've alluded to in your question, the objective of this research was to identify opportunities to expand manufactured housing. But to do that, we really wanted to first gain a better understanding of the different factors that hinder manufactured housing. And the first step was data. And so we leveraged data from a variety of sources, such as the 2020 Home Mortgage Disclosure Act, HMDA, data from the Manufactured Housing Institute, data from the National Longitudinal Survey, along other data sets, and constructed a unique zoning data set. And we found that zoning is a major challenge for manufactured housing. And when it comes to zoning, the state has the authority, but many states actually relay this authority to local governments through enabling acts. And we found that states and local governments actually use zoning to regulate when, where, and how many manufactured homes are built, as well as the infrastructure that's needed to support them. However, we found that the extent to which manufactured housing is regulated in state zoning laws varies by locality. But one of the most common ways of restricting manufactured housing is through density restrictions or minimum lot size requirements. And so that was the first step of the research. Now, once we understood the barriers, the second step was to construct a framework for identifying areas of opportunity. And to do that, I created this manufactured housing friendly index, which is a metric. So manufactured housing friendly index is going to measure the extent to which a jurisdiction is welcoming of manufactured housing. And the criteria that I used in defining this manufactured housing friendly index relate to different things that jurisdictions are doing to either encourage or discourage manufactured housing, such as density restrictions, restrictions on the supply of new housing, and stringency of regulation around land use. And so this manufactured housing friendly index has 3 different tiers, where in tier 1, we find the jurisdictions that are most welcoming to manufactured housing. And I further relaxed some of the criteria that we used in tier 1 to find a second and a third tier of manufactured housing friendly jurisdictions, which are still welcoming to manufactured housing, but could impose more stringent restrictions compared to the jurisdictions in tier 1.
This is research we've needed for quite a while, and I'm sure that this is going to be available to everybody that's attending today. I know it's on Freddie Mac's website, so we'll make sure that you have that. But I have a follow-up question. When you did this research, Where in particular did you see areas of opportunity for manufactured housing to address the affordable housing gap? Were there parts of the country where this made more sense?
Yeah, sure. That is an excellent follow-up question. And we were actually able to identify specific jurisdictions that are welcoming of manufactured housing. And, we have this down to the community name, the county, the state. And I mean, as you mentioned, the research is published on Freddie Mac's website. And if you look at the appendix, it has the list. But to sum up or to give you a quick overview, we found manufactured housing friendly jurisdictions in all of the states in our data set. And
Okay.
and if I look at the breakdown by region, we find that the Midwest actually has the highest percentage of manufactured housing friendly jurisdictions. In fact, in our data, we find that 60% of jurisdictions in the Midwest are welcoming of manufactured housing. And interestingly, according to data from the Census Bureau, the Midwest also has the lowest price point of manufactured homes with 2 sections or more, which I think further highlights the opportunity around manufactured housing in the Midwest, because consumers in that region can benefit from manufactured housing, not only from a zoning perspective, but also from a pricing standpoint as well. And to further highlight the opportunity around manufactured housing, what we did is we also intersected this image-friendly metric with Freddie Mac's mortgage readiness research. And so what the mortgage readiness research does is it provides a framework for identifying consumers that do not currently have a mortgage, but would be great candidates for a mortgage based on their credit attributes. And so we define, for instance, a consumer to be mortgage ready if this consumer does not currently have a mortgage. This consumer is 45 years old or younger, and the consumer has a credit score of at least 660, a debt to income ratio not exceeding 25%, and a mortgage ready consumer also does not have any foreclosures or bankruptcies in the past 84 months, as well as no severe delinquencies in the past 12 months. And so by intersecting this, mortgage readiness framework with the manufactured housing friendly index, we found that currently 25 million mortgage ready consumers reside in areas that we identify as being manufactured housing friendly, which I
Excellent.
think is quite
So
a sizable opportunity.
it is. And I'm sure some developers' ears perked up that maybe I should take a look at the Midwest. So thank you for that great data. And I also noticed that Grant has put that study link into the chat for the audience. So let's stick with zoning for a minute. So Chloe, I'm going to want to hear from you here. You've been an advocate for removing zoning barriers to manufactured homes in Jackson. So can you talk to us about your efforts and tell us about how you did that, and then do you see a path to replicating this in other cities across the country?
Absolutely. And I'll just first say that I could not have done this by myself. There was a lot of people that understand the data. So that data that I talked to you earlier, a family of four making $50,000, $60,000. There are no new construction home ownership opportunities for people, for the average family in the city of Jackson, right? And so understanding that, we had to come up with a solution, or we would continue to see the symptoms of poor planning: homelessness, crime, loss of businesses, the continued flight that we have within our neighborhoods. And so we looked at our zoning ordinance, because as you know, zoning is how you control what the city looks like, what goes here, what goes there. And we realized that mobile homes and manufactured homes were tied together as a definition. And so what we first had to do was this whole educational campaign, a trailer, mobile home versus manufactured versus modular versus site built. And, most people are not in construction, so who cares? But we had to do this educational campaign. The second thing we did was basically take the ordinance, and we looked at other cities and how they did it, but no one's as different and unique as Jackson, Mississippi. So we had to kind of make it our own. And so what we did was we took the definitions and broke them apart, And so mobile homes to this day are still not allowed in the city of Jackson, right? In the city limits. But manufactured housings that have a specific definition, right? And the definition is wrapped really into the construction standards. That definition is allowed within our R2. So similar kind of zoning classification that you would see single families and duplexes in is where you can have manufactured homes. And then there's a whole list. We made it it's actually a use permit. So until we can feel comfortable with manufactured housing, we didn't want, manufactured housing just to fly everywhere, and people are putting different types of manufactured housing all throughout the city and basically killing the historic fabric that we have here. So it's a use permit, and you have to go through site plan review. And there's a slew of it's probably 10 or 12 different things that it has to do in order to be allowed, but it has to fit the existing neighborhood characteristics, right? We know that manufactured housing is customizable, so you can do that. It has to have similar landscaping as surrounding neighborhood fabric. It has to have the HUD certification. It can't be over 10 years old. So we have this list of things to kind of make sure that we control it. But the big thing we did was the education, making the zoning ordinance work for us, and that took us working with Mississippi Manufactured Housing Association. It took us working with consultants, such as Chris Nicely, that works with modular and manufactured homes, and looking at other cities and what they've done to make it fit right for us. And then, of course, it took a lot of input from council members and mayor, as well as the planning board. We're working on a pilot program right now so we can just demonstrate what this new product can look like in the city of Jackson. We think that is going to pull most of the interest that is needed to kind of let this product fly, because it's so new. There's legally wise, there should not be a manufactured house in the city of Jackson, even though I'm sure there is. But this is a way to show how this new product can be treated as an option for fair and affordable housing. And I do see that there's a path to replication. I think that this pilot program that we're working on, it's a P3 development. So it's we got the retailers involved, we have lenders involved, we have down payment assistance through our home program involved, we have the CDBG funds that are subsidizing the infrastructure, we got people donating FFE, we have people donating landscaping. But I think once we show how this can be infill, affordable housing that can, help rejuvenate communities and attract private investment and help rejuvenate property tax values in our schools, I think that it will fly, because there's never been a product like that that's hitting the particular price range where the average family in the city of Jackson can be a homeowner with new construction housing at their fingertips.
That's just excellent, Chloe. It sounds like definitely a case study that some of us need to capture. If your team's not capturing it, we want to help capture that with you. So you're doing excellent work there, and I think it can be replicated. Now, I know the next person who's speaking, Ramsey, wants to see more replication. So Ramsey, as we work to address, some of the barriers to zoning, what opportunity does Clayton see in developing with manufactured homes? How are you approaching developers so they can leverage your homes for both infill housing and new home developments more broadly?
Yeah, thank you so much. That's a great question. You're absolutely right, Stacey. I mean, that's kind of my full focus area, is trying to help us overcome these zoning hurdles. And so before I answer your question about engaging developers and how we want to pursue infill and other developments, I really just want to applaud the work Chloe's done, the work Jennifer Hall, state director there in Mississippi's done. I applaud it not just for the work that you're doing that's going to expand access to affordable housing there in Jackson, but the way you went through it, because I think to address a lot of these zoning challenges and hurdles that we have, there's a lot of meeting in the middle. We're going to have to learn from zoning officials. Zoning officials will have to learn more about manufactured housing for a way for us to all help solve this problem together. And I think that actually ties very well to your question, Stacey, in that how are we approaching developers? I think for us, we see a very big opportunity in pursuing people that are outside of the confines of traditional manufactured housing, right? There is opportunity for us to continue to use traditional manufactured home retailers or developers. Folks are doing a really great job in that space now, but frankly, there's some concern that if we do that, that we as an industry will stay as the bit of niche housing that we are, right? Always up, down markets. We're always around 9-10% of new single family housing starts. We really believe that the industry, not just Clayton, the industry can grow beyond that 9 to 10%. We can get to 11, 12, 15. We have a proven path to production. We can go faster. We can develop more affordably. And so to get there, it means developing new relationships with new developers. And I think that's to have the right kind of product mix and offering for them, we've had to become more innovative than we have in the previous few years. And so the homes that are in the background of your photo there, Stacey, are a great example of the crossmod product that's been brought to market, that is built off site, but then can, appraise and appreciate and get financed the same as site built. So really getting to a place where we're on par. So we're gaining the efficiencies of production from, the simplest way to think about that product, right, is that 75% of the house is built in a facility. The last 25%, garage, front porch, and foundation, is finished on site. And so by bringing that to developers who are traditional home builders who have largely left the affordable housing space because the margins due to material costs have gotten so challenging to turn a profit, then we can bring more homes to market through that, because there are a lot of complicated issues going into the affordability crisis that we have in housing, but a lot of it from my perspective comes down to a lack of inventory, right? And so there's no silver bullet. There's going to be a lot of different things that we need to get out as a country to try and solve that issue. And so being able to leverage manufactured housing and bring it to new developers who are outside the traditional space is one of the ways that we really see that being able to grow, because you're going to have a lot more inventory coming out through those developers, through those builders who are fantastic at doing a foundation, doing a garage, doing a porch. They no longer have to worry about all the rest of it. We in the manufactured housing space can take care of that portion. So I think it's, to go back and really answer your question about how do we partner with these developers to pursue infill projects and new home development, it's exactly that. It's bringing new products to market. They're going to help blur the lines between on-site and off-site built housing that create new pathways for home ownership for people in communities across the entire country.
Excellent. Well, thank you, Ramsey. And I think you guys are doing a wonderful job of really bringing on some of these products that are indistinguishable from site built, right? And that's what it's going to take. So let me turn to Clemente. He's been doing this work for quite a while out in the Inland Empire of California. So Clemente, we hear concerns about manufactured housing and other alternative, more affordable options generally, right? Your organization's been working with manufactured housing as an infill solution for several years now. So how did NPHS work to ensure that new homes placed through your programs meet the wants and needs of both the homebuyers and the communities at large out in your area?
Thank you, Stacey, and thank you, Next Step Network. Thank you for your partnership, because you've taken this journey of our infill development using the benefits of factory-built housing into our communities here. So thank you for your partnership, and I look forward to great things to come. But yeah, I was listening intensely to my fellow speakers here, and when Chloe was talking about the journey that she took, it wasn't easy, right? There's a lot of negative stigma still associated with factory-built or manufactured housing, off-site built housing, whatever you want to go ahead and call it. We'll eventually land on a good term. Maybe we can partner with Clayton Homes on that. But it wasn't easy. But let me tell you what people want. Okay. So yes, we launched a social enterprise. We're directly talking to our residents, our communities, our neighborhoods, one in the weeds. People want highly energy efficient homes that are solar ready, that are EV ready, that can bring energy storage benefits, that are eco-friendly. They have healthy features, right? Indoor air quality monitors, smart features, optimal ventilation, features that promote good occupant health. People in areas that are prone to natural disasters want, since we're talking about wants and needs, they want climate adaptive and resilient homes, right? For us in the Inland Empire, in our east of Los Angeles, we want anti-ignition homes, homes that are more fire resistant, homes that can handle high winds, right? Because that's what we get here a lot. Folks want, well, okay, then are these homes affordable, right? And is there down payment assistance? Is there mortgage financing? The answer is yes. You know, factory built housing has all these benefits, and it's becoming more accessible, you know, as more work's being done in this field. But this is what people want. This is what the communities want. But how did we get here? Right? Well, it wasn't easy. When we started tackling infill development, we were using site-built traditional methods of constructing, but we're in California. You know, doing one home at a time is cost prohibitive. There are no economies of scale whatsoever. So we had to look at alternative forms of construction, and we started looking with manufactured housing, and we got an incredible technical assistance through Next Step. So again, thank you very much for that. But we had to do a lot of education to our local government housing agencies and elected officials. Every time we told them we want to put a factory built home, to Chloe's point, well, where are the wheels? You know, well, wait a minute, you know, that's not what we're talking about here, right? These are not your traditional mobile homes. People wanted to know, well, is there affordable financing for these homes, right? It wasn't until we got to the cross-mod category that Fannie and Freddie, you know, homes are now being built to a spec where families only need 3% down in order to get into a traditional, affordable, conventional mortgage. By the way, we got to change that name, cross-mod. I don't even know what that means, but it's just beautiful, better looking homes, right? And appraisal and valuation was a big issue for our elected officials. Hey, is this gonna appraise just as a site-built home? And guess what? The data that we're seeing, because we've done many of these now, we just sold 3. They appraise comparably to a site-built home. So there's valuation parity there. I'm calling it valuation equity because I think there's a huge disparity because of the negative stigma on manufactured housing. And of course, do the homes blend into the communities? We're putting in, the homes behind me were built in a factory. To Ramsey's the point, the garage was built on site, the porch, a couple of other stuff. Basically, the 25% that wasn't done in the factory was built, and we're putting beautiful harassment-built homes with all these features that are blending in wonderfully in our communities. And we're working in tough communities. In fact, our homes are the best, most beautiful looking homes on the block. So needs and wants, and that's how we got there. Still more work to be done, but we're fighting that good fight.
Excellent, Clemente. And it's so encouraging to hear that you are telling us that people really want this energy efficient home and this climate resistant home. So we know Southern California is different than Jackson. So Chloe, my next question is for you. So what common home features or attributes do you think cities are looking for? You know, Clemente shared, you know, what he was seeing in California. What does it take to get cities really comfortable with manufactured homes?
So first, to answer that question, porches. We're a southern city. You got to have the front porch. You know, that's your crime reduction, your crime prevention, and your crime response, right? The back porch is always a nice thing down south because people like to grill and cook pretty much every day. So they like to hang out and be able to have, you know, kids running around without, any type of scare of street, you know, cars or anything like that. But I would say the front porch and back porch. I know Mississippi Manufactured Housing Association, that was one of the first things I said it has to have a front porch. I don't even care if it's just a half front porch. It just has to have a front porch. One thing that was very, difficult for us is just explaining the differences between all of the different, construction materials and different types of construction products to the average person that does not care about a 2x4 or 2x6, right? And so it was really, I remember having these neighborhood meetings And when people walked in, I would have this huge poster board of a really dilapidated trailer, you know, just like the worst that you could ever fathom in your mind. I had that up because I know that when they walked in there, that's what they thought in their mind. It was just a huge dilapidated trailer. And then by the end, I would unveil this house that had a front porch and a back porch. And they, you know, had floor plans so you could see that it actually had a kitchen. You know, there were no wheels on site, you know, no truck pulling up to drive it off the lot, you know. But it was just a lot of just education, a lot of pictures. But I'm telling you, this pilot program that we're doing, I think that's the key. The pilot program where people can actually smell it and touch it and see it and smell it some more is what needs to happen, because you have to change this mindset that is riddled with racism and classism and Southern versus Northern, and you know, we're history of sharecropping and how that related to a mobile house and how people used to move those around in order to work the different fields and stuff. And you're also dealing with demographics and all this stuff and history, right? And so in order to solidify, you know, what this really is, you know, they have to be able to touch it. They have to be able to see, oh my gosh, there's a toilet. You know, I know that sounds silly to us that know about, you know, construction and development, but to the average family that's grown up to think that a manufactured home is a trailer, and to take them through this understanding that construction standards have changed and HUD code versus international property maintenance, international building code, and the differences. The pilot program is what actually needs to happen, and that's why we're pushing so diligently for it, because we know that it's a game changer. Once people see it and walk up the porch and feel the walls and see that it's a home, it's a real home, that is going to be the game changer that's needed to allow manufactured housing to thrive in the city of Jackson.
Excellent. You know, we have this vision in Next Step about homebuyers really starting their shopping experience in vibrant, diverse neighborhoods, right? And so as you were describing that, that's what I was thinking, you know, what that experience is like as somebody walking up that front porch. So let me turn back to Clemente a minute. You know, you've had the support of JP Morgan Chase, and you've been able to successfully launch Homes by NPHS, your new social enterprise. So can you tell us a little bit more about this new venture, and what are some of the outcomes you're seeking, and how you want to share this in your community?
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. So we've been using manufactured housing to do quite a bit of infill development for about 8 years now. So just wanted to share a little bit about the history. So we've been doing it for 8 years. So over the course of 8 years, we built capacity. We've got a lot of great technical assistance, again, through Next Step. So we became the to-go factory-built small infill developer here in the Inland Empire. So, and we built some good expertise around that. So we decided to go ahead and, you know what, I think we can social enterprises and offer this product, you know, to other folks, other developers, other nonprofit developers, be a retailer to consumers who want to put a single family home on land that they own here in our desert and more rural communities. So when we started creating this social enterprise, you know, Chase looked at our model and said, hey, you know what, let's invest in your model. And what can you do, right? If this investment comes in? Well, it can definitely accelerate our infrastructure building to get the social enterprise off the ground. And that's what happened. So we got an investment. It really acted as an accelerator. We partnered with Next Step on the policy components, the system change components, and we are bringing in just the development piece at the local level here. So it's a partnership with Next Step, and that's how we were able to really bring in this investment to help the social enterprise. But what's the model look like? Well, it backs into the MPHS ecosystem. So we are a CDFI. We're not just a developer. So we have an array of vertically integrated services. So now we're putting in factory built housing as another method of constructing affordable homeownership. And we leverage our other services, such as our mortgage financing through our brokerage, homes by MPHS Home Loans. We have a realty department, so MPHS Realty. We are CDFI, so we're providing down payment assistance for families that are purchasing our factory-built homes. We're doing a homeownership education and now landlord training for the families that are buying factory-built ADUs for their backyards to create more another unit affordability there. Oh, and by the way, just real quick, we're in California, so there's a lot of policy supporting manufactured housing and accessory dwelling units. So it's really enabled factory built ADUs and homes to come into the marketplace. So I don't know if it's California should be looked at as a model, but you know, there's just a lot of, it wasn't easy, but we got a lot of bills to get where we're at now, where it's easier now to build a factory home and an ADU. So that's going to help us with scale. And of course, it's that vertical integrated strategy. We want to get to where we can sell 100 units a year. We got a long ways to go, but we're going to be working with other developers, because it's just not about our developments, but working with other affordable housing developers, working with local government on replacing older, dilapidated manufactured homes. And when we first launched a social enterprise, the first 200 people that ran to, hey, the data showed the folks that are coming to us right now are low to moderate income homeowners wanting to build an accessory dwelling unit for a extended family, whichever that is, aging parent, millennial, or that needs housing, younger millennial, other younger generation, so forth. Now, what we think this will accomplish collectively with our partners, I think there'll be we want to change perception. We're unlocking, working with some of the banks to unlock ADU financing, because in our marketplace, there's not an ADU loan available for LMI products in our marketplace, you know, unless you pay it all cash or you refinance. And who's refinancing right now to cash out, right? Nope, not a lot of folks are doing that. You know, there isn't equitable access to financing for ADU stuff. So we're working with a cohort of lenders to unlock CDFI investments and get that into the marketplace. But at the end of the day, I think what we want to do as well is using manufactured housing and offer this product that blends energy efficiency and healthy features and build homes that rise to the wellness of families. Because that's LMI families want that. Our low to moderate incomes family want that. And that's stuff that they need and they're asking for. So that's what our model we want to achieve. I will just end with this, that it does have a racial equity component to our work. We are working with underserved developers of color who have traditionally can't access capital and don't understand the product, and bringing into the fold so they can go ahead and start getting some of their developments off the ground. Thank you.
Excellent, Clemente, and we're thrilled to be a part of that, and particularly, you know, serving these communities of color. So I'm going to ask Stu a little bit more about this in research. So the research shows that the need for affordable housing is even more acute for our communities of color. Does your research show opportunities to more effectively address the racial wealth gap with manufactured housing?
Sure. So thank you. That is a great question. And, you know, if we look at recent data, the Black-white home ownership gap is about 30%. And so roughly 75% of white households are homeowners, compared to 45% of Black households, 48% of Hispanic households, and 57% for non-Hispanic households of any other race, which I think, you know, really highlight the need for closing gaps in home ownership. But, you know, in an effort to address that, in our research, what we did is we looked at who the residents of manufactured housing friendly communities are. And we found that Black or Hispanic consumers represent 17% and 13% of the total population. in these communities. And to give you more perspective, we also looked at the mortgage ready data, which shows that the average share of Black or Hispanic consumers in manufactured housing friendly communities is about 26%. And so what this means is that about 26% of mortgage ready consumers, so these are consumers who exhibit credit characteristics that could, help them qualify for a mortgage. So 26% of these mortgage-ready consumers live in manufactured housing, friendly communities are Black or Hispanic. And so if we also compare that to data on recent buyers of site-built homes using the 2020 HMDA, we find that manufactured housing friendly communities contain actually a larger share of Black and Hispanic consumers, which highlights that, manufactured housing could actually be a viable way to sustainable home ownership for many people of color in this country.
Thank you for that. That data is great. So Ramsey, I want to hear from you a minute. I'm intrigued because earlier this year, Clayton made a big announcement that your home building facilities are transitioning to the Department of Energy's new Zero Energy Ready home standards. So how do you see this as part of Clayton's overall strategy to bring more homes to the market to address the housing supply gap?
Yeah, thank you so much. Yeah, and we're so incredibly proud of that. It's been exciting to share that news, knowing that we had it, knowing we had to sit on it and wait till we had the big announcement. Was frustrating to say the least, because it is so exciting. And that really comes from a place of being one, we always want to be good stewards of the communities and the places in which we live and work, which is, for us, we're a national brand is across the entire country. And so being mindful of just the resources that we're using, both in the production of our homes, we're the most environmentally efficient way to build a home, but then also thinking about the resources that those homes will use when they're actually functioning for a family and someone's living in them. So it was really motivated by that, but then also thinking holistically about the cost of housing, right? There can be that hidden second mortgage, really for an outdated home or an older home. I've lived in older homes before, and it is not cheap to heat and cool in, a 75, 80-year-old home. And that's unfortunately what a lot of our affordable housing stock is many times. And so thinking about that holistic cost of a home and trying to keep it as low as possible for our consumers at any price point is really a key motivator behind pursuing that path towards every home that we make. I believe it's starting at the beginning of next year will be meet that DOE Zero Energy Ready standard. Excuse me. And so I think that's a critical part of, again, us entering new marketplaces and trying to be innovative in the kind of products and solutions that we're bringing to market. So thinking about what a community or municipality needs for their affordability, which is a problem in every municipality, it can be very different, right? The need for environmental efficiency of getting close to that DOE Zero Energy standard is higher in some markets and lower in others. And so it gives us a wide breadth of product range and price points that we can get to that will meet and function in different ways based on the needs of that community or that municipality. And so it's really a part of that strategy of ensuring we have as many tools in our tool belt to present an affordable housing solution to whoever and wherever they may be, because at the end of the day, how a home is going to function and serve the homeowner and the family that lives in it is more important than the where it was built or how it got there. And so yeah, we're really excited about the DOE Zero Energy homes coming out, but really more excited about the fact that we're going to be able to keep the cost of home ownership low, not just for that first time purchase price, but for the lifetime of that home as new homeowners live in it.
Excellent. So in Next Step strategic plan, I called it a moonshot. I said I wanted us to go to zero energy within 5 years, not knowing how we would get there. So now we know how we're going to get there, and we're thankful you're our longest and great partner in this space. So we're going to make sure that everyone has an opportunity to ask questions. If you'll please put that into the chat, And then I've got a question that I'm going to ask of each of the panelists until Grant kind of chimes in and lets me know we have questions from panelists. So be thinking about this question, everyone. First of all, we're all advocates. That's evident. Like, you know, Chloe's got me even more excited after talking about her Jackson experience, right? But I want us to think a minute about who else we need to bring under our tent. Like, who else do we need to get excited? Who's not under the tent today? And what would be our message to them, right? To really do this as part of the solution. So let me start with Clemente. Clemente, who do you think we need to pull under the tent to keep doing this work, expanding it, and get more affordable manufactured housing out there to close the supply gap?
Well, I think that access to equitable first mortgage financing, there still needs to be a lot more improvement in that space. Although we've seen a lot of progress, there still isn't a lot of lender participation. In fact, as a mortgage broker, we saw a couple of our partners who we have a wholesale relationship with close their factory built financing division as the mortgage industry contracted over the last year or so. So we really need to go ahead and bring more options. That's key for our families, and that's key for equitable. So let's bring in more lenders. And also, as you know, offsite built ADUs shows a lot of promise, especially here in California, as another one solution to bring more affordable units into the marketplace. But if LMI families cannot get access to financing, equitable financing and affordable financing to bring those ADUs into fruition, it's going to be very difficult. So as we need to bring in investors, we need to bring lenders to look at this space. You know, the CDFIs are coming together to kind of figure that thing out, right? You know, we're a CDFI, we're collaborating with others. How can we provide products now to include ADU financing and make this work? So those are a couple of folks and I guess problems and folks that are associated that can be part of that solution.
So definitely lenders and investors. I know through our work, it's amazing, you know, how much education needs to happen in our banks, in our credit unions, right, about the product. What you guys have faced just at the community level, right, just the understanding between what's a manufactured home, what's a modular home, what's a mobile home, well, that has to happen at the bank too, right? So we have to carry these same educational messages out to get more people under the tent. So Chloe, who else do you think needs to come under the tent? Maybe we haven't talked about today.
Oh, I got a long list here. Okay, so no, I'm just playing. I agree with the lenders. That's absolutely, you know, I mean, without the money, you can't do anything. I would like to see our state agencies. So right now, if I look at like Mississippi Home Corporation, their LIHTC deals don't finance prefab houses, right? And so when they're looking at different products, they don't deal with prefab houses at all in a city where you have 45% poverty rate, right? The fact that the state agency that handles all of our LIHTC deals, all of our low to moderate income financing doesn't deal with prefab housing is unbelievable, right? And with that being said, I'm not gonna mention any names, but we were trying to do a neighborhood program, and we had, I'll say, state representatives that were highly against prefab houses in the city of Jackson, where again, average family of four making $60,000, 45% poverty rate, right? You know, so there's 31,000 homeowners, 32,000 rental units in the city of Jackson. There's 12,000 vacant homes due to out-migration and complete abandonment. And we have people that are against prefab housing when we have an entire housing stock that's falling apart. And so I would say our state agencies, lenders, as well as our representatives from state to Congress to Senate. They need to be involved. They need to understand the differences and support.
Oh, excellent. Okay. So our kids getting bigger. Thank you, Chloe. So we're going to have to keep going to see if there's anyone left. So Ramsey.
Yeah, Stacy,
what
I'd
do
love
you
to
think?
chime in. Yeah, so I think there's another angle, because ultimately we have unfortunately a lot of different areas that we have to educate, whether it's finance, whether it's local elected officials, state elected officials, where we just need a lot of education. And someone said earlier, like, I wish I could get everyone in the home to touch, see, and feel and smell them. And it's like, that's what we do need, right? That ultimately is how seeing is believing. And there is a major education component. I think there's another side, because when we're trying to overcome local hurdles, the more we can build out our sphere of influence or tap into the sphere of influence of others, the more successful we'll be in that. And I think there's an angle to, whether it's through Chamber of Commerce or other economic development programs, to partner with them, because what we've seen with a lot of developers or folks reaching out to us at Clayton is that there's some new major economic development. I'll give Columbus, Ohio as an example, where they've reached out to us and said, hey, we have this new Intel super site coming in. They've started construction on it. It's going to create thousands and thousands of jobs. We already have a housing shortage. We're not sure how to fix this. Is there a way manufactured housing can help us? And it's like, if we'd been a part of that plan from the get-go, we wouldn't be trying to play catch up with the process of this economic development. And that's just one of, like, there are many examples like that. And so I think but by trying to present the need for affordable housing as a real challenge to continued economic growth and development, because it absolutely is. It doesn't matter if you create lots of jobs, if there's nowhere those people could reasonably afford to live working those jobs. And so I think by tapping into those, that creates new spheres of influence and ways for us to bring the message of how manufactured housing, how our industry can solve the affordable housing crisis here in our country. So,
yeah, thank you. So definitely getting cities to work with us sooner. So Stu, is there someone else you'd like to bring under the tent on this issue?
I think, everybody covered it really well. So I agree with, what was said. I'll just add that there is a great opportunity to expand manufactured housing in many communities, but the challenges are also great. And, to sum up, I think that working collaboratively across the housing ecosystem, that is working with, researchers, financial institutions, industry leaders, local and state governments, housing counseling centers, I think that will be essential to lowering some of the barriers that we see the manufactured housing industry facing, and also making the most of the opportunity to expand manufactured housing.
Excellent. Okay, thank you. I'd like to see more nonprofit developers come into this space, more housing intermediaries to learn more and more about how they can help solve the affordable housing crisis with manufactured housing. So let me turn to Grant and see, Grant, do we have any questions from the audience?
We do, yes, we have a couple, and thank you for all those who have submitted some questions. So the first one here is from an anonymous panelist in Florida. We have issues with humidity, hurricanes, tropical storms, flooding, and wood-destroying organisms, and they have concerns about manufactured homes in that regard. So I am actually going to field that question to Ramsey to respond to this.
apologies. That's a great question. We certainly hear a lot of concern that is coming from the same place, but phrased and put it differently based on what part of the country you're in. So humidity, all that, like that's, I'd first answer your question by saying there are probably a lot more manufactured homes in your state and probably in your neighborhood or in your area than you probably realize. I think Jim Ayotte, the state director for the Florida Housing Association, Manufactured Housing Association, his last statistic that I heard was there's over 800,000 manufactured homes in the state of Florida. So I'd say we're already very present in the state and those homes perform very well. There really is a challenge of that there are many older homes in older neighborhoods or communities where we're not allowed to replace those homes. So we can't get them a consumer, a new, fantastic, zero energy ready home that's going to perform even better for them in terms of their monthly utilities. They're stuck trying to fix and repair something older and less quality. And so In terms of, termites, all that, like the normal similar protection you'd use on a site build is going to perform just the same. So we already have lots of homes that are performing and serving families in the state of Florida already. We just would want the chance to serve even more by helping address some of the zoning challenges and things we've already talked about here.
Excellent. Thank you, Ramsey. We have another question here from Chris, and I apologize on last names, McGahey, I believe, or something thereabouts. As a lender who has tried in earnest to get my management engaged with manufactured housing, is there a place I can find statistic data on loan performance with MH collateral? So I will go ahead and field that to the panelists at Broad. Whoever wants to take that question, please feel free.
Sure, I can actually take that question, as I've done some research recently on loan performance, and I did this research with Louise Brown at Freddie. So we studied the risk of default associated with manufactured home loans over a study period going from the first quarter of 2015 to the first quarter of 2022. And I'm not going to go through all the modeling and stuff, but through a statistical analysis where we also accounted for loan and borrower characteristics, we found that manufactured home loans actually performed better than loans that are linked to site-built homes, and they actually had a lower probability of being delinquent 90 days or more. And this is, both over our entire study period, as well as during periods of financial stress, such as the COVID-19 pandemic. And again, that paper is published on our website if you'd like more details about, the risk of default with MH homes.
So we don't seem to have any additional questions from the attendees at this time. So I would just like to say thank you to our panelists for being a part of today's discussion. And then, of course, to all of our attendees this afternoon as well. Stacy, if you have any parting words, please feel free to go ahead and give those.
Okay, so thank you to the panelists and to all the attendees today. I think zoning is such an important issue for us to do the proper education, to open up more communities and get more communities excited about bringing these higher quality, energy efficient homes to help solve affordable housing issues, whether it's in Southern California or the city of Jackson or many cities across the nation. We're needing more people under the tent to work with us on this. And I think we heard some great examples today, and we also shared some great data. So Next Step provides these webinars a couple times a year. Please check back with us and we'll keep you on our list, and we hope you join us in the future. So thank you.